والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Last time we had reached this point where we're talking about how societies are formed, and we said that societies are formed based off of three things. What were the three things that we had spoken about last time? Food, clothing, and shelter. Sounds good. So we said that based off of food, clothing, and shelter, there are a number of jobs that actually came about, and there are a number of classes of people that Imam Ghazāli actually he mentions and he talks about. So he says that there are three classes of people. He said there are farmers, herders, and artisans. I guess he included all of these people together because they work with their hands. I'm not really sure. And then you have the soldiers and law enforcement, and then you said you have like people who are just general laborers who don't have any particular skill set. He also said tax collectors, which I thought was interesting. And then he says that this idea of how society evolves, it never completes, right? It just never ends because society keeps what? Right, it keeps growing, right? It keeps growing and it keeps advancing. And even the world we live in today, it's very different from the world that was 100 years ago, or 200 years ago, or even more so. Or not just that, like, subhanAllah, technology is like, what is it called? Exponential. So you'll find that when things are like this, and then it hits a certain point and it just goes like that. The things that some of us might have experienced like 20 years ago, it's very different from our life experience today. Right, so like 20 years ago, if I wanted to go to somebody's house, what would I do? I'd open up, I'd have to call, number one, right? And how would I call? I would open up the phone book, right? I'd have the rotary phone, and I'd have to call. And then they would, yes. What's a phone book? A long book. So it was like before we had Google. So basically, you would have, and we'd had two types of phone books. I don't know if you guys remember. So what's your name? What's your name? Yahya. Yahya. Would you like to attend class, Yahya, or you're just going to play? You got my answer? Okay. I'm fine with either answer. Okay. Yeah, attend or don't, okay. But just make a decision. So, you had two types of phone books. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. You guys are all young, mashallah. You had the white pages and the black pages. You had the white pages and the yellow pages. What is the difference between the white pages and yellow pages? This is historical. Yeah, so the yellow pages were for businesses and white pages were for individuals. Right? So if I wanted to look up people's name, and if I never register my name in the white pages, guess what? Nobody will have access to my number. So this is actually how they used to do cold calls. Right? They used to just go through the white pages and just kind of look through this list of names of people. And this is something that would be published like every single year. If I want to call someone today, how do I do it? Right, so there are a number of different ways to get in contact with people. If I want to get in contact with somebody who I don't know, what can I do? I can email them. I can go on their LinkedIn. I can go on their Instagram. I can go on their Facebook. Right, there's almost limitless ways that we can actually get in contact with each other today that just weren't available before. Even with one phone number, right? Making a phone call is one way of getting a hold of someone. What other ways can I get a hold of that person through the phone number? WhatsApp, Telegram. If you have an iPhone, right? What do you call them? iMessages. So, and this is all from one number, right? You can have like 3-4 ways of contacting someone just through the phone number. So the reason that I mentioned this is just like look how quickly technology shifts our lives. Just 10-15 years ago, we were using maps to get to different places, but now everybody has like a pocket. Like our phones are more powerful than computers were 10 years ago. Like it's crazy, right? It's amazing how much technology has changed.
It's actually more powerful than the device that used to get streaming.
What?
This one here.
Yeah, yours in particular. Okay.
More processing power than the devices used to get streaming.
I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing. So Imam Ghazāli says that, okay, well, in order for society to expand further, what does it need? It needs more wealth and it needs more tools. We live in an era today where people have been the wealthiest, like mankind today is the wealthiest it has been in history. I want you guys to think about that. Mankind is wealthier today than any time in history. We as individuals, even if we live in the smallest places, we live better than most royalty did in the past. We have, like, how many automatic machines do we have in our home? Right? If there's dust, how do I pick it up? With a vacuum cleaner. If I have too many dishes, what do? Dishwasher. If I want to wash my clothes, I have a washing machine. And because I don't feel like I want to wait for them to dry, what do? I can put them in the dryer. Right? We have so many conveniences that are available to us. And why have these conveniences come about? Because there's an insatiable appetite of man to want what? More. This insatiable appetite to want more, to want better. And based on the things that we're talking about, is that necessarily bad? No, it's not. Because even Ghazāli, he had spoken about this, saying that if an individual is given his needs, right, and we had talked about how to gauge those needs, but if I'm given my needs, then in that space I should be what? I should be satisfied, and I should be the optimum what? If I'm given food, if I'm given clothing, and if I'm giving shelter, and I'm giving them in a good way, then I am now what? Should anything distract me at this point? No, I should worship more, spiritual. Right? I should be more spiritual. Because all the things that could have distracted me, if I don't have something nice to wear, I'm going to be distracted. If I don't have money to pay my rent, I'm going to be distracted. If I don't have food to eat and I'm hungry, I'm going to be distracted. But if those distractions are out of the way, this should be me as an optimum worshiper. This should be me as an optimum God. How do I decide for myself what that is? This is something that we had talked about previously. Right? How do I determine Islam? How do I quantify it? How do I determine where I am supposed to be and how much of the dunya I should take? Right? Because we all have to take something from the dunya. How much do I take? This is a decision that I have to make. Can somebody else make it for me? Can I make it for someone else? Like, no, you have too much dunya. Can I do that? I think we do that. We do it, but we can't. And as these needs fluctuate, you have the opening of souks, bazaars, storage centers. Why? Because what has happened now is we had said that you have all of these people who have these different skill sets, right? As a farmer, I have vegetables, I have crops. As a tailor, I have all these shirts. And what happens is that as we become better at harvesting, as we become better at selling, as we become better at preparing, I end up having more. And if I have more of these things, I want to trade them, right? Because I want to get better things for myself. So where am I going to go? I'm going to go to the bazaar, right? I'm going to go to the souk, I'm going to go to the mall. I want to sell my wares, and I want to sell my goods because I want better things for myself. And look, these are all natural needs. It's very organic how this growth is actually happening. And he says, until this reaches an international level. So now when it gets to the international level, it's no longer the individuals who are dealing with each other, but it is who? Right, so it's the nation states that are dealing with each other. So I don't know if you guys know the joke, like if a country finds oil, America's like, it looks like they need democracy. Right? So, why is that? Because even within those boundaries, every state is limited by particular resources. They're limited by particular skill sets, right? So you might have certain countries that are skilled at manufacturing something in particular that they don't have in somewhere else. I was shocked when I lived in Saudi to find out, like, a lot of the oil in Saudi is not refined in Saudi. Isn't that crazy? Huh? Right, it's refined in Texas. It's crazy. You have to take oil, which the oil liner is using to transport all this oil outside from the place that it's actually coming from. And why is that? Because while they have the resource, they don't have the what? They don't have the skills. And this is something that's really important, right? So I as a nation state, I might be blessed with a certain skill, even if I don't have a particular resource. In every nation, every people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has either given them a skill or He's given them a resource. In some nations, He has given both. وَذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. And this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessing, and He gives to whoever He wills. Even with us as individuals, some of us are smarter, some of us are more intelligent, some of us are taller, some of us have better tastes. These are all natural abilities and disabilities Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us all of, that we learn how to cooperate and learn how to deal with one another. So now that I have all these things, I need to get these things to different places, right? I need to take them to the sul. So what am I going to do? I'm going to figure out how to carry these things. And carrying things on my back is not the most effective and efficient way to get things from place to place. So this actually has an effect on like populations. Here, so like the Indians, like the Native Americans, how did they move things from place to place? Do you guys know? Well, okay, they had a wagon. What would they pull on the wagon? Who would pull the wagon? Horses are not American. Yeah, horses are actually they're actually Asian. Buffaloes can't be tamed. So Native Americans actually used to play. It was a walking culture. Yeah, they used to carry things on their backs. Why? Because they didn't have so even cows are European. They're not. They're not native to America. The things that are native are I think buffalo, turkey, right? Trying to think what else. There's only a handful. There aren't too many native cattle and crops and riding animals that are available here. I think the only riding animal in the Americas is the llama, but even the llama is only found in certain areas. But it had an effect on a civilization, right? So when the Europeans came to America, were they dealing with an advanced civilization? No. How come they didn't advance? They didn't have the resources, right? There's no push for them to advance. If I can only carry my things so far, will I be able to have a vast nation-state network? You can't. They made some progress, like in Central and South America, right, with the Aztecs and the Mayans, but even that was very limited in their scope. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like I said, He gives to some, and He doesn't give to others. So, and now there came a time also, okay, well, I can't just keep carrying all these heavy goods everywhere, so I need to have some kind of substitute, right? I need to have a representation of those goods in a currency form, right? Because even if we think about it, if we think about money, money is actually a representation of goods, right? That's what it is. I mean, in America specifically, right? So the dollar is based off the GDP. So here you have money as a representation of goods, and why it came out as a need. People couldn't carry around these heavy things to barter all the time. So this is why the currency system came in. And then when I have currency, what do I need to do with my currency? I need to protect it. And that's where war became a political tool. Because other places might have gold, other places might have silver, even today. So there are a number of rare metals that we use, right? Not for currency, but for what? Huh? For technology. So things like cobalt, right? What else do we use? What are some other rare metals? Yeah, like for the microchips that we use. So all the mining for these microchips, where does it happen? I'm sorry? Like in Central Africa. It happens in Central Africa. And how do they do it? By hand. It's insane that this still happens in the world today. It's actually done by hand. And a lot of the people who are working are actually what? They're actually children. It's just mind-blowing. But subhanAllah, why? Because there's a need. There's a need. And as long as there is a need, these things, war, oppression, taking advantage, this will continue to happen. Why don't we just mine for these things in America? No. It's not the expense. Huh? We don't have a lot, but there are other things that we do have that we don't mine for. Why? Silver. Huh? The children are lazy, that's for sure. They're spoiled. There's no doubt. No. Because of these environmental movements. Why can we mine in Congo and why can't we mine in the US? Because the environmentalists, they're not allowed into Congo. It's unfortunate, right? It's an unfortunate reality. And then how people respond to each other, I think this is something, this is where we have to really look at when I have skills or when I have resources, what kind of classes and what kind of people actually stem out of this, right? This is an important conversation to have. So there are people who seek the easy route, right? So when adversity comes, you have different responses to that adversity, yes? There are some people who seek the easy route. And these are the people who Ghazāli, he says that they're basically two types of people. Either they become thieves or beggars. Why? Because it is easy. And he says that those individuals that manage to avoid thieves and beggars, because you're going to have, even within the thieves and beggars, you have a strata. Yes? So the lowest level are going to be the thieves and beggars. And then you have the people who are smarter than the thieves and beggars. So then what happens? Is you have thieves and beggars who are actually what? Who are even smarter, right? You develop a strata of them because they're like, okay, well, they're avoiding these people. So what they do is that you actually have people, so if they're strong and they're intelligent, they'll band together and they are known as what we call highway robbers. But if they're weak, what happens? They become pickpockets or swindlers, or just they go to take advantage of people in other ways. And then there are people who don't want to go through these efforts. Right? They're like, why go through this effort of stealing when I can beg? So they start faking. Right? They start acting like they're blind. They start acting like, and some of us might have experienced this, right? Where we go people and like they're actually faking. They don't have those disabilities, but they act like they act like they have those disabilities to gain the pity from people. And then there are those who go on to become entertainers. I always thought, so I think maybe during Ghazāli's time it was a little bit different, because entertainers are probably like some of the highest paid people in the world today. At his time, I guess these were people. Saying that, it's an extremely competitive business, right? So getting into entertainment is not something that's particularly simple. It's very difficult, it's very challenging. But I imagine like this level of entertainers are those people who you might see in the subway, right? I mean, like they're the ones who like collect money. So this is more of what I have that comes in mind versus like very big name stars. And then you have those tonic sellers and astrologers. And even tonic sellers is like even something before my time. But you guys know what a tonic seller is? Right? He's like, just drink this and all your hair will grow back. You know what I mean? Like, so they sell like, they call it like snake juice, you know? I'm sorry? Or snake oil, you know what I mean? Like they sell these things, right? There's no real benefit behind any of these things, but they sell them trying to convince people that it actually works. And then you have astrologers, also people who just kind of tell tales and like they try to tell you your future, even though like all the time they're wrong. And then you have those who overcome their ignorance with distraction, and their sole focus becomes this world. So the first group was just lazy. This group of people, they're like they see the adversity, and they're like, okay, well, we need to focus on just getting as much of this world as we can. And they eat to earn and earn to eat. You guys know what that means? Yeah. That their entire so have you guys ever heard the two statements? There are people who live to eat and people who eat to live. You know the difference? Right? Yeah. So there are people who are like their goal is to eat, and there are some people who use food just as what? As a tool, as a fuel, right? As sustenance. So over here, he's saying that these people, all they want, they just go to fulfill their, they just work, they're just in the grind, right? And their goal is just to survive, and their goal is just to earn so that they can live another day. They eat so that they can work, and then they work so that they can eat. And they just kind of live this cycle, and they get trapped in that cycle because all they see is what's going on in this world. And he uses like the farmers as an example of this. They say that, and the reason he says that they're not blessed in this world is because all they're doing is what? Toiling, right? All they're doing is working, all they're doing is toiling, so they don't really reap the fruits or the benefits of people who are significantly more wealthy. And then there are those people that think they understand. And these group of people, he said that these are the people who are like, okay, well, if this is what it is, then I should do my utmost to fulfill all my desires. That's my point, and that's what I should do. And this person, all he does is he just cares about fulfilling his appetites, fulfilling his sexual urges, and he thinks that it is through this world I'm going to gain all my pleasure. That's mine, and that's what I want to do. So what does he do? He focuses on women, he focuses on eating food, and he believes that if he achieves this lifestyle, then he'll find true happiness. What happens with such people? Right, they end up being depressed. Why? Right, because the thing is like, okay, well, once you fulfill your appetite, what happens? right? You're gonna, and then there comes a point where you realize that this is not actually satiating, that this is not actually fulfilling. It's just all material, right? And then there are those who think that, so this person, it was through pleasures, and this person was through wealth. So what is his goal? What does he do? All he does is what? Gather his wealth. His goal is to get richer. That's it. All he wants to do is just get more and more wealth. And he just tries to accumulate it, and that's all he does. He protects it, and he eats little because he's being cheap, he's being stingy, right? So his goal is to protect his wealth as much as he can. And there are those who seek it through fame, right? So how do they seek it through fame? Basically, they're always talking good of others, like, oh, you know, you're such an amazing person. All they do is they praise other people, even though they don't actually mean it. And they'll be stingy with eating and drinking because all their wealth will be spent on dressing well, right? For them, it's just all superficial, right? They are around people, right? This is the exact narcissist culture, right? This is exactly what it is. Where the reason I'm praising the people in front of me is because I want them to what? I want them to return the praise to me, and everything is purely superficial. I want to dress nice, I want to look nice, because this is how I want people to recognize me. As somebody who looks nice, somebody who, you know what I mean? And that's it. It's just the superficial world. And then those that seek it through status, how do they do it? They have this false sense of humility. You know what I mean? They kiss babies. Like, so what do we call them? Politicians. And building these political ties. Their goal is to build that political prowess. Their goal is to make those relationships that will help them with their status and help them get the positions that they're looking for, because their drive and their desire is just to be honored and just to have that status. He says, and then there are people who seek it through religious status. And he uses a hadith of 72 sects. He said that these individuals are also driven by those same three needs. But what are they trying to do? Instead of going through wealth and going through money, what do they use? Huh? Use popularity where? In the deen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. But this is why when we have, in different hadith, right? The one who fought jihad, the scholar, the one who recited the Quran, all of these people, the Prophet ﷺ said, were where? In Jahannam, they're in the hellfire. Why? I'm sorry? They were what? They were hypocrites, right? Not in the sense that they were like, they didn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but in the sense that all of their actions were for what? To show off, right? It was for fame. But instead of using wealth and power and these other means, they used what? They used the deen, right? And that's the most dangerous thing to play with. That you're using the deen to actually get fame. And he said, but for those individuals who actually understand the reality of these drives, like, so all of these things, like the one for fame, the one for power, the one for status, the one for wealth, all of these things, he said, for someone who actually understands these things, he said that this person is not going to drown in them. Why? Because he knows that these three are only meant to be used until the state of self-preservation. As long as I'm protected, as long as I have my needs fulfilled, I do not need to go beyond that. And he actually uses an example, and I think I have an image that'll come up inshallah, but it's actually, his imagery is very nice. So he says, a person who actually spends little on this world or thinks little of this world, his heart will start to empty from this world, right? So the attachments to this world, as he starts thinking less and less of it, they'll start leaving his heart. And what fills his heart? It's going to be the next, right? Because if we're emptying our heart from the love of this world, then the only thing that will fill it is love for the next. And if we love the next world, it's going to allow us to prepare for it. And he says that this preparation for it is going to push us to do what? To even get further away from this dunya. It's going to get us further away from this. And what's going to happen is just that it's going to create this cycle again. Right? So this positive feedback loop is something that we see time and time again that Ghazāli tries to do with different things, right? Whether it be desires, whether it be needs, whether it be spirituality. He wants us to create this feedback loop within our hearts so that it's this idea of self-preservation and self-cleansing and Tazkīyah and muhasabah. He says, but if someone only thinks of this world, what's going to happen is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to be concerned where this individual dies. Why? Because he's wasting his time. And he's wasting his life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. So he says that those that actually take a lesson in all of this, they turn away from this world, and the shaitan is jealous of them, and he keeps trying to what? Just misguide and distract them. So the shaitan, he's working to misguide them, he's working to distract them, and he says that if we understand that this world is a test, and happiness is only in the next world, what happens is that there are some people who think that what? That worship is unnecessary. Because I only need to do what? Where do I need to focus? According to this person. Thought I heard it. Where's my focus going to be? If this person believes he doesn't need to do actions, then he believes that what? Only what needs to be pure? Only my heart needs to be pure. If my heart is pure, I don't need to. I don't need to act. I don't need to worship as necessary. And for some people, they'll say, okay, well, I give up. And I'm going to commit suicide. And some, they say, well, these human characteristics of need and hunger, they need to be removed. Realistic? It's not. And these individuals, they end up constantly struggling. Right? They're constantly struggling. And what happens is that this person, he'll get frustrated to the point where either, right, he's going to reach a point of sickness or insanity, or he'll enter a spiritual crisis where he's like, this is not realistic, this is not achievable. And I remember there's a brother who actually told me, he's like after I read like sections of Iḥyā, he's like, man, I used to fast like days at a time. And I was like, then you didn't understand what he's saying. What actually happens is that you reach this point where you have this unrealistic standard for spirituality. You have this unrealistic standard for religion. And when I create that unrealistic standard, what happens to me? I can't live up to it. And I get what? I get frustrated. Right? I get frustrated, and eventually I'll tell myself, like, what kind of deen is this? What kind of religion is this that causes me to do all of these things that I think are supposed to purify me, right? And look at how I fooled myself. That the religion was supposed to do all these things. I don't see any of the results I was looking for. So what does he do? Yeah, it just pushes him away. And there are other people who will just indulge in their desires, right? They're like, okay, well, I don't need to worship, I don't need to do anything, I might as well just indulge in my desires. And there are some people who abandon worship altogether, right? Why do they abandon worship? Because they think that they've reached. They're like, no, I don't love the dunya anymore, therefore, I don't need to worship. I've reached a state where I'm at equilibrium now, and I don't need to worry about any of these things, and I'm good. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from all these. All of these are like evil.
So what about like monks?
Yeah.
Do they fall in that category?
Oh, this one where they abandon worship? Yeah.
Like monks that like will remove themselves from the world and like go solo in the forest or desert.
Oh, like and kind of like exclude themselves and like, yeah. I mean those things, man. It's like this unrealistic standard. And people can't live like that. The funny thing is, with monks, where do they get their food from? Like, other monks who can't work, right? It's like the reliance is still there, right? Such people tend being like a burden, like end up being a burden on society instead of people who are actively contributing to it. But if you look at our scholarly tradition of people who we consider to be not monks, but like ascetics, people who are jihad, they actually contributed to society, right? They would go out, they would teach, there would be repercussions, there need to be consequences, and if he is, there needs to be rewards. Why? Because that is what a contract is, and that is what an agreement is. Spirituality is individual. How he wants to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is between him and Allah. It has nothing to do with me. It's like, hey, you should do it for Allah. Okay, but that's for me to decide, not you. You don't get to decide that for me. And even if you told me it's for Allah, and even if I agreed, is it necessary that I'll do it for Allah? I can agree. I can be like, yes, it's fine. That's a good question. How do I know I'm doing enough? It's probably not, like realistically. But we all fall short. And the thing is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's not looking for us to do enough. He's looking for us to be continuous and consistent. He just wants us to do good deeds. And we just have to keep doing them, that's all. Can I truly praise Allah, to the praise that He's deserving? Can I truly be thankful for the things that He's given me? Like for all the things He's blessed us with? No, we can't, right? So it's never about enough. It's about, am I consistent? And how do I know my deeds are being accepted? There are some signs and indications, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows me to continue doing good deeds, I think I'm on the right path. And the moment I feel myself straying and I start doing things that I shouldn't be doing, then I should go back and be like, I need to check my intention, and I need to check my action. So I hope that helps a little bit. So this idea of spirituality and like enforcing it on other people is like, you know, oh, you work in the masjid, you should work for Allah. It's like, okay, well, you're a plumber and you should work for Allah, right? You know what I mean? Like, everybody should work for Allah. There isn't someone, you know, you can't have like groups of people who don't work for Allah and people who do. But at the end of the day, that's my personal intention, that's your personal intention, and you have to fix that. I can't fix that for you. So, you know, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all sincere. So who is saved, right? Right? It seems like there's this bleak picture. Everybody is like, you know, misguided and distracted. And so he says here it's the saved sect. Who is the saved sect? Those people who follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this case. It's very simple. It's not complex. It's not difficult. We have to love the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have to follow his companions, and that is where guidance is. There's no doubt about it. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's our example as an individual. But who's our example as a society? It's the companions. And were they perfect? No, not at all. A lot of shortcomings. Fighting, right? Drinking, civil war. They didn't have like the perfect society. But they had one that we should definitely learn from in terms of tolerance, how to deal with each other, how to bring each other up, how to support each other when we're down. But these are the things we should definitely learn from, and we should benefit from. So he said, those that balance, they will not abandon this world fully, nor will they fully indulge in their desires. Right? And we have to be balanced. That's what's important, and that's what matters. So how is that balance achieved? From this world, he's going to take what he needs, and from his desires, he's going to maintain that which is within Shari and logical guidelines. What does that mean? So, Shari guidelines, I have to eat those things that are what? That are halal, right? I have to eat those things that are halal. And logically, like what? So, if we say that apples are halal, right? Logically, what guideline should I follow when I'm eating an apple? I shouldn't eat like 12 at once, right? Right? So these are the guidelines that he's talking about here. It's like, okay, well, step one, making sure that it's halal. Step two, making sure like the quantity and type and the things. If I'm allergic to apples, right, even though it's halal, it doesn't make sense for me to eat an apple. No, right? So these are the logical guidelines that he's discussing and talking about. Also, he does not follow every desire, nor does he deny every desire. Why? Right, you have to be balanced, for sure. But I'm saying, like, okay, well, if I have 12 desires, how come I can't follow all 12? Because you could develop a really bad habit, right? Somebody who's constantly following their desires, they'll end up being like the person before, right? That one desire is fulfilled, what's going to happen? He's going to go for the next one. He's going to go for the next one. Huh? Like dominoes. So, and the other thing is, like, how long and how strong do desires last? Right, they're usually for a short while, but they're very waning. So just because I desire something now, right, and how many of us have had urges, right? Like we want to urge, like, it's like I really want some spicy Cheetos, right? You know, and it's like, but what's going to happen in like an hour? Right? It's right. So like, if I don't get them, desire will be stronger. No, I mean, so like in an hour, I'll forget, right? Because they're fleeting, right? And that's the thing with desires, is they're fleeting, and we have to train our nafs, right? We really have to train our souls not to engage and embellish in every single desire that we feel, right? Because they're urges at the end of the day. There's no reason to embellish in any of them. He must be just, must not leave off everything from this world and not seek everything from it. So again, if we find and we understand that there has to be a balance in all of the things that we seek and all of the things that we want, it helps judge on the things that we should go after and the things that we should benefit So he says here, the seeker understands why this world was created, and this purpose protects him from falling into excess. And he takes from sustenance what will aid his body to worship, and from shelter what will protect him from thieves, the heat and cold, and from clothing similar to that. So Ghazāli has come back full circle, talking about the three needs that man has, and he's basically said, okay, listen, just take what? The bare minimum. Because from there, it's easier to re-gauge and reset what I actually need. Because I'll find in time that, is this a need, or is this a want? And based on that, I can help gauge how I'm going to go forward. So much left. So, when his heart is done with his body, and when is that? When we depart. He's able to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with full attention. He busies himself with dhikr, with fikr, and with amal. Right? These are the three things that Ghazāli focused on in this chapter. He manages his desires so that he is able to control them in a way, right? He's able to channel them. Because desires are something that are natural. And Ghazāli is here, he's not saying forsake your desires. All he's saying is that they have to be channeled in the correct way. And he said, how do you do this? Very simply, by following the Firqat al-Najiyah, by following the safe sect. And who are the safe sect? The companions of the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They would never take this world for the sake of their religion alone, and they would never fully abandon this world. They were balanced. They were balanced, again, as a whole, as a group. And this is why they were successful. In closing, they were never at any extreme, always at equilibrium, which is true balance between two ends. And he closes by saying, all praise to Allah in the beginning and end, and peace and blessings on our leader Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his family and his companions. And we are at the end of book 26. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless all of you. I ask him Azza wa Jal to allow us to continue this khair and to continue this journey. I ask him Azza wa Jal to purify our hearts and to make this as a means of making us all more spiritual, more involved, and more religious individuals. And may he make it a means of Azza wa Jal to truly find the Tazkīyah that we are all seeking in ourselves. Well, Jazakum khair. I will see you guys next week when we start the new book, which is Kitab al-Dam al-Bukh, something. But it's about stinginess and miserliness. So it'll be a good discussion, inshallah. I'm sorry? Say again? That one is not translated either. So you guys, I think they're working on translating all of them. You know what I mean? Like, you won't get, you won't get the presentation from me. Like, Jazakum khair.